In January of 2013, I traveled out to Tacloban, Philippines for the first time in my life.
Just arrived to Leyte, Tacloban.
My purpose was to meet relatives and to research my family heritage. And so I did. I met with supposed relatives who shared my family name. I also did family research while I was there. Although at every stop the records did not dig far enough back to provide me with the answers I needed. The relatives showed me around to see the landmarks and the beautiful places in Tacloban. I headed home to Los Angeles with little leads but more familiarity for this beautiful land of mystery, which seemed to be a hub of history for my family. I related so much to General MacArthur's famous statement, "I shall return."
We are at the MacArthur statue.
Especially so, since Tacloban was the place he did return in World War II. In November of 2013, news hit that the strongest typhoon that would ever make landfall was headed for Tacloban. The super typhoon was named Haiyan, also known as Yolanda in the Philippines. We saw extreme images on the news and prayed that our relatives were okay. I couldn't believe that some of the news footage was shot from the very hotel that I stayed during my visit. I heard through social media that our family had some close calls, but thank the Lord, everyone made it out of the storm alive. In December of 2015, I headed back to Tacloban to join my brother Caleb and his girlfriend Jessica. It wasn't until we arrived that we understood the true devastation of the typhoon and how close of a call some of my family had.
Hello, how are you?
We are cooking.
My relative Rebecca picked me up from the airport. As our trip went on, she began to reveal her breathtaking typhoon experience to us.
This arena, didn't they use it as a
Yes, an
place?
evacuation center, and
But then it flooded, right?
Yes, the water was up to that brim. Everything by this side was destroyed. Look at
Yeah,
that.
look at the water damage all the way up to the beyond the roof.
That's what nobody expected was the storm surge.
Yes, because before Yolanda struck, the weather was like this. It was fine. 3 weeks prior to the typhoon, he was having a shortness of breath.
Yeah.
So we decided not to move because Tacloban is near hospitals, and if the storm came, we could and there was no ride available, we could just walk to the hospital. It used to be a big, a beautiful house, but now it's roofless. This is from my work. I didn't use it because I was reserving it for something, some kind of a souvenir from my work. Started running to the second floor. Our things were all floating.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were running after us. What are things? This is the place where I saved some stuff
Oh.
because the water started to subside when it was already here.
So you put it in there just to keep it dry.
Because of the strength of the water, and we run up there. This is where we saved ourselves. Here, this portion here. We're about 15 people here.
Wow.
Yeah. And the rain was really so hard. And you know, this building was shaking. Well, the water was up and the rain was so hard. The building was shaking. I thought we would be destroyed. This building would be destroyed. And I was looking at this. I said, if the building will be destroyed, we will hold on to this.
And then what did the ocean look like?
Everywhere was water. Everything was destroyed. And the people there did not evacuate, they all died. Oh my gosh. They all died.
How long were you up here?
About 3 hours?
Wow.
About 3 hours.
Until the water subsided?
And we thought it would never subside.
Wow.
We thought it would just keep on coming up. And you know, my neighbors, they evacuated when the water was already up here. And so they had to climb the gate and they had to negotiate the grills. And those grills were designed to keep burglars away, and they were something like, you know, it was a little sharp. Those were the grills that I was telling you. They sustained certain wounds in their
Wow.
skin and in their body.
But as long as they're alive, that's what matters, you know?
Yeah. Then the water subsided at about 11, and it subsided so fast, but the wind, it was still strong. The wind was still strong, and we could not go down until 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Because you know, you will be blown by the wind.
Yeah,
You will
yeah.
be blown by the wind. And it was slippery all over. There's a store on the other side of the street, and she had rice, she had soft drinks, and they started looting that store. So they will survive. We didn't have anything. We were having breakfast then when the storm was already starting to blow.
Wow.
You know.
So what did you do for the next few days? For food and...
At about 3 p.m. About 2 p.m. we started walking towards PNG, towards my parents' house, and it took us about 3 hours.
Oh, and they had food and everything there.
We left Hill here, and then on the street we saw some bananas. Somebody was selling some bananas,
Yeah.
and so I bought it for 50 pesos a bunch,
Yeah.
and I bought 3. I bought it for 150. Oh my goodness, these are the pictures of here. Oh. Oh my goodness. Childhood pictures.
So are these things you carried up just to save?
Yeah. But you know, the water destroyed them. It was such a mess.
In the end, Typhoon Haiyan, also known as Yolanda, was the most fatal storm in the history of the Philippines, with over 6,000 lives lost. There are plenty of scars that remain from this storm on so many levels.
And all the roofs that are gone over there, is that all from the typhoon?
Yeah, that's the hospital.
And so much that will never be forgotten from this horrific typhoon. And there's a restaurant that I went to before the storm, and it's gone.
Whose car?
That's mine. That's the
Oh,
car
wow.
that we used when you came over the last time.
We're at the Leyte Park Resort, and this is where a storm chaser and videographer, Jim Eds, recorded some pretty incredible footage of just the power and intensity of the typhoon.
You can still see that almost everything's been underwater.
Yeah, this boat washed ashore during the typhoon back in November 2013. Which it was the full boat. They had to make a memorial out of it just to allow enough space, but the full boat was here originally. Yeah, it just shows you the power of the storm, that the water was high enough to wash the ship over all these houses to land here. Although the people here have shown how amazing they can be at dusting themselves off and bouncing back, standing up strong and showing us all how they have a reason to be merry. Although just over 2 years had passed, I was amazed at how well the city had recovered. Support poured in from throughout the world. During our visit, we learned a lot from what we witnessed here. Most of all, we know that the people of Tacloban and the surrounding areas affected will not let a superstorm ever put a stop to their happiness. That's such an incredible example for us all to learn from these amazing people. No matter how great the storm, there will always be brighter days ahead.